Hello everyone, this is Naerina from 40k Theories, and welcome to the October 2022 edition of the Patreon Q&A sessions. And as you can hear, I am not Remlaze. Rem is unfortunately ill, and that is why he asked me to do this session with you guys, and I try my very best to answer these questions. I'll give you my 2 cents on every single question, but I have asked Rem to provide some answers for some of these questions because I honestly have no clue. But yeah, you'll get my 2 cents in addition to his answers as well. And yeah, let's do this. And I'm sorry, and I apologize if I happen to, butcher your name or your question or anything. I'm most likely going to do. And yeah. Pentadeus asks, of all the 40k books you've read, is there one you genuinely regret? Who has better style, the Space Marines or the Orcs? I haven't read that many 40k books, so no, at the moment, no regrets. I'm pretty sure Remlaze must have some, but this is one of those questions that you'll just have to wait for the next month to get the answer to. And, better style, well, I think the Space Marine style, in general, if we go by the book, is not that interesting. Then again, it was made because, you have to get miniatures out of that. So, the Orcs, of course, the miniatures don't have that much variation either, but the Orcs can basically just wear a cardboard box, and that's a helmet. So, I think the style is at least a bit more interesting than the Space Marine style. But yeah, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so yeah. Voice of the Emperor asks, what would happen if Orcs crashed on Katakan? Is it pronounced Katakan or Katajan? I think Rem had some point of this, but I've heard it said both ways, and like many people say both ways. I used to say Katajan, now I say Katakan. As long as you don't say Katakant, you should be alright. And I'm pretty sure if Orcs crashed on Katakan, that would mean, first of all, an epic battle. Second of all, if any Orc spores got, into the wild, that would mean that they had to do a proper burning of a lot of the forests, because Orcs usually don't just, pop up into one place like, hello, I just happen to be here. When they do their stuff, they do it properly. That's what I think would happen. Austin Horner asks several questions. Spoilers for Echoes of Eternity. In Echoes of Eternity, it is revealed that many of recruits for the Revenant Legion, including Nazir Amit, were mutants to varying degrees. Could this possibly explain why the Flesh Tearers suffer from the genetic flaws of Blood Angels' gene seed more than the other second founding chapters, Blood Angels chapters, whose recruits would have been primarily from Baal? Well, I think that may have an effect on it, yeah, to be sure, because, all of these designs were made for, when it comes to, this kind of chapter designs, they were made for, a certain type of human or human-like creature. And if you have a mutation, we cannot really say what happens with, that gene seed if we happen to be mutated already when you get that. If you survive, the whole ordeal of becoming a Space Marine, yeah, wonderful, congratulations, but still, there is something different in you, so, you never know. Then again, it's a thing that happens to all people, this kind of genetic flaws of the Blood Angels, so, yeah, well, not all, but many people. So, it could be that it does affect, but not that much. Perhaps there's something even more sinister coming. Given that Sanguinius rips the Butcher's nails from Angron's skull in their duel, does he still have them after remanifesting in the warp? Well, that depends on if you think that one has one's body if you just manifest into warp and if you don't just tear a hole into it. Like, for example, whilst warp traveling, I think, and people can correct me on this, you kind of tear a hole and go through, the warp when you have to, go through that. But if you just manifest somewhere, do you still have your original body? And if you happen to be a thing that lives in the warp and is mostly made of warp stuff now, do you have the capability of shaping yourself? Because of course, naturally, if you kill a demon, the demon comes back, like, once it is banished to the warp. So, I think if Angron thinks of himself as having the butcher's nails, yeah, he might still have them in the warp. Because warp is not on the same plane as, the material world. Or that's my understanding, at least. During the duel between Magnus and Vulcan in the Webway, it is implied that the Emperor is continually resurrecting Vulcan in a manner akin to perpetuality. Using this power, is it possible the Emperor could create genuine perpetuals? Well, if he has to keep doing it over and over again, that means that regardless of how you die, you'll have to keep doing it. So technically yes, but that would be a lot of work. Brent V's asks, we've asked who is Remlaze, what is Remlaze, and how is Remlaze. Time for the next important question. Why is Remlaze? Well, you see, when two people love each other very much, then, well, you have most likely had the talk already, so I don't have to go into that. But, from what I hear, from what Rem has told me, he found this kind of inquisitor character with a horse skull for a face and was very enthusiastic about it, and he likes dinos, so he did the same thing but with a dino skull, which is kind of cute. And cool. I think more cool than cute. Any thoughts on why the Imperium doesn't have a standardized empire-wide currency? Well, I think it's basically the same reason why the Earth doesn't have a standardized currency. I mean, we do trade in, for instance, dollars or euros. We have these kind of areas or then, bigger countries that use certain currencies, but still we do not all use the same thing, because if we did, I think that would mean that if, there was depression or something like that, and I'm not an economist, so don't quote me on this. Like, let's say if we all use the dollar. If the dollar fell, that would mean a devastating thing for every single one of us. Because, with $200,000, you could just about to get a candy bar or like a cup of rice, and people would suffer. Besides, it's a hassle to organize such a thing in a planet, not to mention the whole galaxy. Also, it gives the kind of, all kinds of writers and artists and role players the chance to expand the lore in their own games or own stories. Breston asks, are the Tower Ethereals somehow a ploy by the Watercast to have greater control over the rest of the casts? I think I should have asked all of these questions of Remlaze, but I didn't want to bother him because, sick and all. That's an interesting thought, honestly. I think not originally, but they could be used as such. Now, people who are interested in writing, and if there are any 40k writers listening, please hold on to this idea, because I would like to read about it. Mike Murdoch asks, with the Leagues of Votan now stating in the lore that one league was the once that was eaten by Tyranids, and the kin and the Demiurge are one and the same. What else would you like GW to retcon/add back into the squad/Demiurge lore for the Leagues of Votan? And this is one of those questions I have no idea what to answer to, because, I don't know that much about it, so... Remlaze very kindly answered. I'd like for them to once again reference the squads or leagues, whichever name you prefer, as being the reason behind the Imperium's development of Mark III power armor, as that armor was originally in lore designed in response to how brutal the tunnel fights between the Legioness Astartes and squads truly was, due to the lack of cover etc. in such confined spaces. And yeah, I think that would be very cool too, because, give reasons for what people wear, why people do things. That kind of gives you more of an established, world which you have created. Terrorblades asks, if you could make an Imperial Guard regiment based on whatever you wanted, what would that regiment be, and be referenced to what? Imperial Guard, Imperial Guard, Imperial Guard. I think... one of those... Oh goodness, the name escapes me. Now every history buff is going to hate me too. Who was the Prussian king? Was it Frederick the Great or someone who had this kind of an army that he made only just to parade around on his yard because they looked good? It would be very interesting to make Imperial Guard regiment out of that kind of, and write stories about that, because if you just in the Imperial Guard, because, okay, I look pretty and you have a badass uniform, etc., what do you do when someone actually attacks? What do you do? Like, the orcs come. How do you even fight? That would be very interesting. And yeah, of course, every single one of you guys are like, Finland, wars against the USSR, why won't you use that? Because I've seen it in so many movies already, like, if we make films in Finland, it's all about, if there's any wars, well, we don't have that many wars that we've been fighting, so it's all about those people. So I'd like to see something different. Zero Hits asks, the Imperium needs VTubers to help raise morale, yes or no? If so, what kind? If not, then who does need them? Of course they do. Naturally they do. And I think that would be something along the lines of having this kind of holograms or holographic, like, hey, you could do it. It's like, well, story time. I'm pretty sure we did not establish if these were holograms or any short holovids of any particular character. But in the Rogue Trader campaign in which I was the Rogue Trader, it was established that there were kind of these calendars of certain kinds of ladies about my Rogue Trader around the whole ship. People were like, oh my god, like in very interesting positions looking at her. Not that they were in interesting positions. I'm pretty sure that the pictures in which the Lady Admiral of my Rogue Trader was in, where, the positions in them were very interesting. But yeah, of course it boosts morale if you have something to fight for. Not sure what kind of VTubers that would be. Perhaps commissars, perhaps, Rogue Traders. Someone people believe in or want to protect. Always boosts morale. Just make sure it's, Imperial material. Griffin of Might asks, after rereading Hell's Reach and noting how Grimaldus had almost unnatural levels of charisma and ability to turn people to his cause, is it possible that Grimaldus is in fact a latent psyker and the Black Templars do not realize this? Yeah, could be. I asked Ramlays about this, and he said, it's certainly possible, yeah. So, we very much agree on this position. They also ask, is it possible that Perturabo didn't ascend to demonhood as a Prince of Chaos Undivided, but instead was transformed by his using warp stuff to fill in the spiritual damage done by Fulgrim's ascension independent of the gods? Rem help, and Rem does help. He says, no, he is definitely a demon prince. In fact, one of the short stories that were included within the recent special edition re-release of Storm of Iron states outright that he had been elevated to demonhood. Alright, good to know. Hangar's Angel asks, for a goofball question, but in your opinion, which Primarch has the best hair? Leman Russ, the Lion, or Sanguinius? And I would like to, because of course I had to ask Ramlays about this, after all he has beautiful hair as well. I would like to read what he wrote before I give my answer. Well, some would expect me to say Sanguinius because Sanguinius. However, I'm not a fan of curly hair, so I'd probably say Liban due to his nice braid work. Lion's hair, while indeed magnificent, is just too, plain in comparison. And my answer is, darling gentlemen, when it comes to your hair, I don't care how long it is. I don't care how short it is. If you have any hair, what you can do is care for it properly. It's like with your beards, if you don't care for them, it shows. And yeah, a well-groomed man, not in the sense of, you have to be all prim and proper, but, look like you take care of yourself. That's the way to go. If I have to pick and choose, I think the Lion, of course, has this kind of proper mane of hair. Probably like this kind of waking up in the morning and just looking like I came out straight from the, L'Oreal commercial, as do, naturally, all of the gentlemen, but this kind of liony mane. Lehman, of course, the braid work, magnificent. I would like to learn to braid like that. But then again, Sanguinius. A friend of mine, actually, whilst he had long hair, had this kind of, well, I called them angel curls. These kind of very, very pretty curls. So, I think I would go with Sanguinius if I have to choose with these ones, but yeah. Gentlemen, ladies too, groom yourselves. And that concludes this edition of the Patreon Q&A sessions. If you would like your questions answered, please click the link below and support us by becoming a patron. And until next time, this has been Naerina from 40K Theories, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye!